Nobody alive is responsible for that, and those idiots expect us to give them 19 trillion pounds. They're just hustling, and the answer is no, and don't bother asking us again, because we will never ever give you this money. Drop the subject. It's ridiculous.
There is a Whyte reporter here saying, go to hell with reparation. We are not going to pay it. We are not going to pay it. Why are you demanding? And before I dive into that video, let me read this from one of the fans saying this. I just realized this. Reparation is not something you beg and ask for from a position of weakness. No, reparation is something that you demand and enforce from a position of power. We must get the power first. Then we shall get the justice our ancestors are still crying out for through the hearts of their living descendants. Not by asking, but by enforcing our will with the power we shall have. So we need to stop asking for it and talking to them about it. Let's keep quiet and make them think we forgot about it. In our quietness, let us focus on getting power over those who currently have power over us. Once we have achieved this, then reparation with interest and everything else we are owed shall be ours without even asking for it. Where there is a will, there is a way. Say amen, everyone. It's a comment from one of the fans. I have read it today and it's making sense. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching from. Welcome back to my YouTube space. I am the Kenyan Beast and we are doing it the African way. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. If you are a new subscriber, please, here is where we get greatness. Kindly don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to your friends if you love this video. We're gonna dive into reparation. There is this Whyte reporter who is saying that they cannot pay reparation, and he was talking about the Caribbean, black people at large. They cannot pay reparation. It's crazy paying that amount of money, and yet we were not there. Yet the people who did that are not here. We are not the generation. We blah blah blah. A lot of things. Listen to this video.
They are staging right now the Commonwealth Leaders Summit, where Keir will be presented by the usual absurd demands for slavery reparations. The Caribbean nations are asking for as much as, check this out, 19 trillion pounds, because to compensate for the fact that some of our forefathers kept slaves in the plantations in Barbados, etc. Nobody alive is responsible for that, and those idiots expect us to give them 19 trillion pounds. They're just hustling, and the answer is no, and don't bother asking us again, because we will never ever give you this money. Drop the subject. It's ridiculous. And we were the country that took our empire and used it to go a long way towards stamping out outright slavery around the world. We used our own empire to stamp out slavery because we knew it was implicitly wrong. So the idea that we're some kind of evil imperial state that does nothing but bad is for the birds. It's nonsense. And yet this is the attitude that prevails right now. So we have this conference next week whereby we will pay lip service. Oh, you want reparations? You want 19 trillion pounds? Well, we'll definitely think about it. We're taking your demands very seriously. I think we should turn around to these people and say, we're not taking your demands seriously. They're ridiculous. They're ludicrous. And get this, you are never getting a single penny out of us for slavery. Got it? Got it? Write it down. Okay? Because this ritual where they demand it, we go, oh yes, we're personally sorry, but we're not sure how far we get. No, just tell them to do one. It's absurd.
All right, so for every time you hear a white person say, you know what I mean, they had nothing at all to do with our slavery because they weren't alive back then, just call this interview back to memory. And remember this interview every time you hear a black leader telling you that you should forget about slavery. So basically you can just forget about, you know what I mean, this oppressor ever giving us reparation. I mean, if they are not willing to even give us an apology, a proper apology, you think them are going to give you $19 trillion? So you can basically just forget about that. And like we said before, no amount of money can compensate for the suffering, you know what I mean, that our foreparents went through during slavery and the suffering that we went through after slavery. So them can keep that. And this is why we have to give thanks for our God, you know what I mean, the Most High, our power, because him have a reparation in mind for these oppressors. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 2, and it said, and the people who are the children of Israel, which we are, you understand, blacks, Hispanics, and native Indians, shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaid, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So this is true reparation. We ruling over our oppressors. The same way how they forced us, you know what I mean, to work for free and build them a big kingdom, is the same way them are going to work and build up our kingdom. That is how we are going to get our reparation, by putting them in chains the way they did to us. And to the argument that oppressors like to bring up that, you know what I mean, they weren't alive back then, so they shouldn't have to pay for slavery. Well, this is what the Most I have to say about that. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 14 and 21, and it said, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land nor fill the face of the world with cities. So these oppressors who are alive today will have to pay for the crimes of their forefathers, because nobody paid for the crimes of slavery. You understand? And with that, follow this page where ISUPK Jamaica under commanding General Yohana.
Welcome back. That's about reparation, and there's a lot of arguments about reparation. There is argument for reparations and arguments against reparation. I believe the comment I read first, it has some sense in, because we must get power as black people, and when you get power, we cannot ask again for reparation. We will get it with interest. What we need to do is to get power first. What Africa need to do and black people need to do is to get power first from those who has power. And when I say that statement, you know what I mean. Right now, when you are asking for reparation, it's like we are begging. It's like we are very poor and we are using this opportunity to beg. They cannot give it to us. They will create stories to make it look like it's something bad. But when we get power, we are looking for power. And when we get this power, we're going to get this reparation in our own way. For example, when Africa gets power, they are going to get reparation from France, with or without their contest. When we get power from Britain, when we get power from all these colonizers, they're going to pay the reparation with interest. They're going to bring back our gold. They're going to bring back the chairs they took from our kings. They're going to bring back everything they took from us with interest. That first statement makes sense. But tell him in the comment section, what do you think about it? Do we seek power first, or do we keep asking for reparation? He has said that we must keep quiet. Let us pretend like we don't want it again. Let us pretend that we have done away with these reparation stories. But deep down, we are looking for power. Power for black people. Power for Africa to lead themselves. Freedom. Freedom is what we are looking for. But according to this Whyte, it's so ignorant of him talking like this, knowing that he has this privilege, white privilege, talking this way. He's talking. Our ancestors went through a lot, the hands of their people. And for us asking for or demanding reparation is not a sign of weakness. A lot of things are being taken away from our land. Our motherland is still crying. Our cousins, brothers and sisters They are in the countries that are supposed not to be theirs because of slavery that happened. Every atrocities that's happened to our people, it has to be counted on. We are asking for reparation because most of it is because we want to acknowledge the historical injustice. I support reparation because it will acknowledge the centuries of systematic racism, enslavement, and discrimination that Black people had endured. I'm supporting reparation because it will be the way to compensate for the lasting economic, social, and psychological effects of slavery, segregation, and discrimination. I support reparation because of the apartheid that happened in South Africa. Black South Africans went through a lot in their own land. The discrimination, psychological, that is affecting up to now. It's affecting up to now. Our economy is going down or is down because of the atrocities that happened back then. The segregation, discrimination, and the slavery, the racism, everything that Black people went through has an impact on today's life. And that's why I'm asking for reparation, or I'm supporting reparation, because it will acknowledge the historical injustice. When you get this reparation now, for those who are talking about, oh, Africa, this, Black people, this, we want reparation. Okay, you get reparation. Are you done? Yes, we are done. To fill the gap, the economic gap, to feel the pain in the heart. Someone is saying that this is not the generation that went through a lot, but we are the children of that generation. We are the sons and daughters, the grandsons and granddaughters, the granddaughters, and the great-great-great-grandsons of that generation. We deserve the reparation. So this white journalist talking about this, I feel like I don't wanna say something bad to him. He is talking his mind. He's talking his mind, but is he right? Personally, I feel like he is not right. And that's why I'm trying to dive in. Why are we asking for reparation? Or why are we demanding reparation? Why are we demanding reparation? Because it will address the wealth gap. Okay? When I'm talking about wealth gap, I'm talking about the Black Americans face, for example, Black Americans face significant economic disparities compared to white Americans. Historically, Black people were denied access to wealth building opportunities, e.g., land ownership, quality education, and fair wages. And these inequalities continue to manifest the lower household wealth, education, and health outcomes. Reparation could be seen as a way to help close this gap. And it was there by purpose. Land ownership, we were denied as Black people to own land because they want to take this charge, this power. And when you want to get power, when you want to rule, you have to rule someone who does not have land. You have to rule someone who cannot access better education. You have to rule someone who cannot access better health. You have to rule someone who does not access to agriculture, who does not have power, so that he can be your slave. He can work for you. He can do something for you so that you can give him health or anything. So this created a wealth gap where white people were getting access to these activities, like, for example, in South Africa, white South Africans were getting quality jobs, quality education, quality health, they were owning lands, and yet Black South Africans were going through hell in the hands of supremacy or colonizer. So the wealth gap between Black South Africans and white South Africans was far, far away, because Black people did not get the opportunity to own anything. But reparation will at least fill this gap. Will fill this gap. And that's why we are talking about reparation. So my white journalist, I don't know if you see sense in what I'm saying. The black Americans and the white Americans, they have difference in wealth gap, in the wealth, economically. And yet black Americans were the one who built America. The Jamaicans in Jamaica, the Caribbeans, they are living in poverty, and yet they are the one who built that country, working in sugarcane farms. But who is laughing now? The whites, the Spain, the England people are the one who are smiling, owning these big lands, hotels here in Jamaica, having this, the beach is theirs. They are getting money from the beach. It's not going in the pocket of black people, going in the pockets of British. Don't you see something there? So we need this reparation to fill this gap. Yes. We need this reparation because of social and psychological healing. Because reparation could serve as a symbol of a nation commitment to addressing past wrongs. It could help heal racial wounds, affirm the dignity of black people, and contribute to reconciliation and healing in society. For example, when British decide to pay the Jamaicans reparation, it's a sign of, you know what? We gotta give you back what you deserve. We are friends now. You know what? We are seeking for forgiveness for what happened, for what our great-grandfathers or our ancestors did to you. It's a healing process. And we will have a lot of countries coming together, and the world will be at peace, because it will at least fill that racial gap that we see, you know. At least when I talk about healing and psychological healing and social healing, I know you understand this. So it's a way to affirm the dignity of black people. It's a way of these white people acknowledging black people through this reparation. And that's why we are talking about reparation. It's a way of just moral responsibility, because I believe, or some people believe, that U.S. government and other governments have a moral obligation to repair the harms caused by centuries of slavery, segregation, discrimination policies. This will reflect a commitment to justice and fairness for all citizens, particularly those who have been historically marginalized. White people, most of them talk about Africa not being civilized, or black people are not civilized. But when we look at history, they are the one who are not civilized. They are the one who has caused a lot to the people of Africa. So if we talk about civilization, you don't talk about black people. You start with you first as a white person. Are you civilized? Starting with you, you know? So because you have the history, the ancestors, the white ancestors have the history of killing, the history of enslaving, the history of discrimination. That is the history of the white people. The history of black people is to passing through a lot. And by doing this, the government may do what? May try to repair the harm that was caused to black people through reparations. And that's why we are asking reparations. Now, let's go to argument against reparation. We have seen people saying that we don't have to pay reparation, like this journalist saying that we don't, or we're not going to pay the reparation. And most of the people who are saying this, it's because they see like reparation as one, as you know, who will qualify for that reparation, you know, how they will be distributed and how much will be enough to make meaningful difference. They are urging that it will be difficult to design a fair and effective system to compensate for the complex history of racial injustice. So those who are against reparation, this is one of the key things they are using. They are saying, how will it be distributed? Who will it be will qualify to get the reparation, and how will it be distributed? How much will it be enough? So there is no need to pay it, because we cannot measure How much can be enough? We cannot measure, or we cannot know who to qualify. So let us leave alone these things. So this is the argument that those who are against reparation are talking about. And some are urging that the modern day individuals should not be held in accountability for what happened, or to be held responsible for the actions of the past generation. They believe that the society should focus on addressing current issues like system racism through policies reforms rather than financial reparation. And it's a good argument. We may focus on current reform, like in Africa. Reparate Africa, leave Africa. Africa for Africans. Go build your country. We build our country. Don't interfere in our own in our own local politics. Don't. That's what I was talking about. If you leave, if you go, if you don't interfere in black people's matters, like African matters, it's okay. It's okay. It's better than paying us and yet you are still here. So that argument, it's a very good argument, but are they ready for that discussion? Are they ready to put policies to end racism? Are they ready to put policies to move away from Africa, to stop neocolonization? Are they ready? Because it's one of the biggest reparation, by the way. Instead of money, just leave Africa for Africa, create good policies. Let's make Africa great together. Be a good friend. Don't exploit. Okay, and we move on. It's a good argument. But are you ready for this discussion, Britain? France, are you ready for this discussion? You are not ready, I know. You are not ready. Another thing is because of we worry, or some worry, that reparation could further divide society along racial lines. They urge that it could create resentment among people who feel they should not be blamed for the actions of their ancestors, leading to heightened facial or racial tensions. Sounds legit. And that's why at the end, at the first, we were saying that let's look for power first as black people. And when we get power, this reparation will come through without asking, without demanding. We'll get the reparation that we want. Because when we get reparation now, for example, they will be like, now we have paid you. We have paid you your money. Now we are continuing to do what we do the best. The racial, the discrimination. Because we don't owe you. Now let's play our card. That's how they will feel. When I say that's how they will feel, you know who will feel like that. I feel like I'm entitled to you. I paid you I was to say the N word. I paid you, my guy. I paid you. Because my grandfather did this bad thing to you. I paid you. I don't have anything against you. Now we are free. Now they can do anything they want to do. It's like I don't know, but I feel like we need that power first. We need to take Africa back first. I think the first message, or the first comment I read, it is like, we need that. We need power. And when we get this economic power, political power, we get this freedom for black people, we get this Africa back to us, reparation will come by itself. Because we must keep policies to end racial discrimination. We must keep policies to end segregation. We must put policies that will see that we are the same people. And by doing that, is by Africa getting their power. Now we end all these myths that we are poor. We end all this myth that we are a jungle. When we end this myth and they see value on us, now we will start talking, because right now they don't see value on us Africans. They see value on Africa because they are exploiting Africa and they are getting something from Africa as a land, but they are not getting or seeing value as Africans because there's a way they are carrying us, poor people, in the world. Tell me what you think on the comment section. We're talking about that Whyte reporter. We're talking about reparations. Should we get power first? Or should we just go ahead and demand for the reparations? For me, I believe power will be the eye opener for everything. Until next episode, we say peace be with you. Don't forget to subscribe on my YouTube channel. I am the Kenyan Beast. Adios, muchachos.